Hey, how's it going, everybody? Scott Spreitzer here, DocSports.com. He is the one and only Doug Upstone, and we're talking some college football bowl action. The Bulls get underway on Friday. We're talking about a Saturday game. We'll jump into it in just a moment. I also wanted to mention that at the end of this, after we give our free play on this game, Doug and I are each going to give a bowl tip, one of our favorite bowl tips that we use each and every season, tried and tested bowl tip. We'll get to that also in a bit. I wanted to mention before we jump into it that Thursday afternoon, and that would be, what is the date today, Upstone? It's the 15th. So Thursday afternoon, the 16th, people will be able to get all of our bowl plays for the first week of action, which of course kicks off, as I mentioned, on Friday. You'll get our first week, plus you'll get this week's NFL plays. So all the guys will be posting their plays made available on Thursday afternoon. We're shooting this bowl video on Wednesday late afternoon. So let's talk about it a little bit, Doug. It is the Independence Bowl. It's UAB and BYU from Shreveport. This line opened. BYU as high as an 8-point favorite. A couple of joints are showing 6.5s right now, but for the most part, it's a 7-point spread. BYU, of course, the favorite. Now, they beat up on some Pac-12 schools this year. We do know that about BYU. 6-1, I believe it was, against the spread against Power 5 schools. They didn't get the New Year's Six bowl invite, though. And we talk about motivation all the time at the bowl games that kick off before New Year's Day. Who has motivation? Who doesn't? And I'm just wondering if this has mattered to you at all in this matchup. You know, UAB is going to be, ready between the ears for any bowl game they get to. Now, BYU, their athletic director put it best when he said, not getting a New Year's Day bowl invite was a little bit like being stopped at the half-yard line on 4th down. Now, I don't know if this has trickled down to the coaches and the players or anything like that, but it might be a hint of where the motivation might lie in this one, Doug.
Yeah, I would agree. And that was one of the very first things I thought of when I saw the line, because at 8, to be perfectly honest, I thought, well, you know what? BYU. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't think BYU deserved a Super Six bowl bid. Just offhand. I mean, I think there's more deserving teams than them. But from the motivational standpoint, yeah. I mean, I could see where that would have an impact. And then going to Shreveport, not exactly a destination for most people's list of things to do. So that played a part. But when I saw the 8, I thought, UAB plus 8, initial response and looking at it didn't seem like a bad idea there. This is a interesting bowl game too. In terms of the history, it actually started in 1976, but in the last 19 times they've played, because last year's was canceled, the favorites are just 10-9. And it typically also, from the standpoint of, let's just say, a matchup, it's usually a pretty good matchup because in those 19 games, only 7 of them have been by more than a touchdown. So it's been a competitive game, at least going into it. Okay, hasn't always worked out that way. But in terms of favorites underdogs, it's basically 50-50 split. So, yeah, BYU, you mentioned that. I mean, the one decisive advantage I think they have in this game, now, motivation aside, is that they are so big and strong in the lines. Okay, so in the trenches, they have a really decisive difference between those two areas, or in those two areas. So I think that's where the game, let's face it, most football games are won in the trenches. So I think the line is more than justified. And I was actually kind of surprised that it went under a touchdown, or at least is at a touchdown at this time. Now, UAB, they do a good job against the run. Okay, they're one of the top teams in the country against the run, so they're strong there. Can they hold up over 4 quarters, Scott? That's one I don't really know if I can answer. Okay, right now or specifically. And the other thing that they do well now, they're only 91st in passing offense. Okay, so nothing to get excited about there. However, it's a big play passing offense. They're 5th in yards per pass attempt. So when, if they connect, and when they connect, it's usually pretty good results. So that I think gives them some juice going into the game. The game is in the South, so that will be to their advantage. And even though it's not a Power 5 team, per se. It's well regarded now as a top 20 team, especially the last 2 years. So I think that gives UAB some extra motivation, coming into the game. So yeah, those are my general thoughts on the game. Scott, what about you?
Yeah, statistically speaking, UAB isn't that far behind BYU in a couple of key categories, that I'm looking for when I handicap games. Throwing out the motivation factor, just talking about raw,
Right.
stats and stuff like that, they're pretty close. When you throw in strength of schedule into the mix, it certainly does make a difference. Obviously, BYU has the big edge there. But yards per game differential, yards per play differential, all that kind of stuff is pretty close, just looking at it from that raw perspective. Having said that, when the level of competition has taken a step up or two for UAB over the last couple of years, they have had some issues. Then there's BYU. Besides the possible motivation issue that we already spoke about, they're going to be missing a bunch of regulars for this game. They've got a linebacker who's missing, a corner. They've got their center is going to be missing for this game. Obviously, a huge piece of those trenches that you spoke about. And so, there are several key players for BYU that won't be playing in this football game, which makes bowl handicapping just so much fun. When you got, guys opting out, choosing not to play, what have you, injuries, all that kind of stuff. So you've got the fact that the stats coming against a higher level of competition leans towards BYU. Then you got to take players out of the mix that played a lot of downs this year on both sides of the ball for BYU. The motivation factor, all that clubbed together, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, this isn't your typical October 25th UAB BYU game on a neutral field. You handicap it, you're saying 7. That's a gift. I love BYU in this spot. All of a sudden it becomes, okay, all these other factors come into the mix. And I think as long as it's 7, at least 7, not 6.5, but at least 7, that I've got to lean towards UAB here, Doug. I really do. I think, it's a chance for them to come in with motivation on their side. Listen, when this program got shut down, who could have ever thought that it would be playing at the level it is in such a quick amount of time? I mean, would they come back in 2016 or 17? And just
17.
like that, they're playing in bowl games again. So listen, they've done a great job. BYU's set. I mean, Sataki just signed a contract extension. Again, I have to think that this is one of those teams, and the way Sataki relates to his players and his coaching staff, where motivation shouldn't be that big of an issue, but I do think it is to a certain level with BYU. Maybe not, if Oklahoma got relegated to the Independence Bowl, that's a huge issue. But this is BYU, and not to take anything away from them, but I think they're just a little bit more focused on the task at hand, even when they feel like they've been shorted a little bit when it comes to bowl invites. Having said that, Doug, I got to lean towards UAB as long as you're getting at least 7 points. It would be a pass for me at less than 7.
Yeah, and I think this is a good example of, and people, lots of handicappers talk about this, is that you have to consider the teams, but it's also a key point of you're betting not necessarily just teams, you're also betting numbers. Okay. And this
Yep.
to me is the perfect example of that, because if you just look at the teams and the decision as to what team to take has a lot to do with numbers. As I mentioned,
Sure.
UAB at +8, I mean, I would seriously have to consider that. But,
Mhm.
at 7, below 7, I'm just a little more concerned that way. The one thing I think the important thing you said there with Sataki, I think that can help. He's an enthusiastic guy. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that every time that he says, hey, guys, we got to play hard, that they do.
Right.
But I think that can help get through, some of the disappointment as to
Mhm.
what's occurring. And if I'm him, I would talk about, what? Hey, guys, this is one game. Maybe next
Mhm.
year, or at the latest 2 years, we're going to the Big 12. Okay. And pretty much we don't have to worry about playing in the Independence
Yeah.
Bowl anymore. So let's just go win this one. So I think that's a positive there. So yeah, because of the difference, you mentioned some of the players being out, but I just look at the strength of BYU in the trenches, and I just think that's a deciding factor in the game, to where I could see them winning by 9, maybe 10 points, and basically putting the game away though late. Okay, maybe with a field goal, maybe with a
Mhm.
touchdown, in which they have a lead. So Scott, myself, I'm going to say BYU, but at the 6.5, -6.5.
Okay. And I'll say, the other side, UAB +7. And it's not part of
Right.
my premium package, folks. There's no way. And this is an
Absolutely not.
opinion, no doubt about it. It is not part of my premium package. And with 3,000 teams playing in the bowls every year, you got a lot to choose from. You don't have to go with opinions and put your money on it. However, if you do like it, again, as Doug just mentioned, and when he said I'm laying, I recommend a player. I have an opinion on 6.5 with BYU. Shop around because if you like BYU, there are 6.5s. If you like UAB and take less than 7, you shouldn't be betting. It's as simple as that. Listen, we're going to get into our couple of our favorite bowl tips, so to speak, when it comes to handicapping in just a second. But I wanted to let everybody know that that free $60 account banner that you see on top of your screen, if you click on that link below the video, you can set yourself up for that free $60 account if you're not yet a member at DocSports.com, and then use those free $60 on any of Doug's daily packages, any of mine, anybody else on the roster at DocSports.com. Doesn't matter the sport. Again, it's daily packages. And click on that link below the video to get yourself started. Also wanted to mention, man, don't forget to jump on board with the discounted rest of the season college football and the NFL package. That means you're going to get all the bowls. You're going to get the college football playoffs, including the championship game. You're going to get the rest of the regular season in the NFL, the playoffs in the NFL, the Super Bowl, which I believe is now being played in July. Anyway, so you're going to get it all, and you're going to get it for a really nice discounted price on our homepages at DocSports.com. You can jump on board if you wish. I had a great close to last year, 8-1 in the bowls. We hit the bowl game of the year, which was a play on the Iowa Hawkeyes. And we ended up between college and pro football. We finished on a 20-6 run. And Doug, I know same goes for you. You had a real nice, strong finish to last season.
Yeah, yeah, and this time I come prepared knowing what my numbers are for the bowl games from last year.
It's only the third
So,
time.
hey, but fool me once, fool me twice, but 3 times, no, 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 not a chance. So I was 8-4 in the bowl games, and that ended up being plus $1,900 because I hit my 5-unit, 6-unit, and 7-unit best bet, which was
Nice.
Texas A&M. I hit all 3 of them last year, Scott. So I am fired up and excited to get the bowl game started up, and I love we have basically twice as many as we had last year.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to it. Let's talk about some of our favorite bowl tips. I will start with you and give us your, a tip that you use for most of the last few seasons, at least when it comes to handicapping bowl games.
Yeah, well, it's actually not only a tip, but it's also an assignment. Okay, for everybody watching
Ah,
this, and so here's the deal: is one of the things that I have done for years is to track in-season bowl games because every year trends emerge, situations occur, different things that are to follow, and as the bowl season starts to roll along, especially now that we're back, in the 40 plus range on games, there's things that just pop up. And so, for example, you'll see certain conferences that do really well. Maybe they're expected to, maybe they weren't, but so you track those. So get the piece of paper, get the pencil or whatever, get whatever you want to use, but start tracking those things. And then along with that, besides looking for advantages, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2 years ago, by the way, that the Sun Belt was the best conference in the postseason in terms of wins and in terms of against the spread.
sure.
The other recommendation that I would have is I would also break it down for against the spread into increments of basically 0 to 3, 3.5 to 7, 7.5 to 10, or excuse me, 9.5, and then double digits. Keep track of
Mhm.
all of those, and the same thing with totals: 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and look for overs and unders, and to see if there's something that's trending in a certain direction. A lot of times these early bowl games have big scores, big
Mhm.
totals, and some years they go over those totals, some years they don't. If you're in the know, you're going to have a better advantage to make yourself more money tracking these bowl games.
And for those who might be kind of new to this, I think also what you're talking about, just to clarify for somebody who's new and really just jumping into this, one of the things you're talking about tracking early bowl games. I mean, if you have an opening weekend, and I'll just use this conference as an example since you mentioned it, the Sun Belt. Let's say they win their first 3 bowl games and they do so handily. All of a sudden, your Sun Belt power rating goes up a little bit. You might be looking for them in another bowl game a little bit later that hasn't been played yet. So, certain things you can look at within what you just mentioned. I do like what you're talking about there, and I'm going to give one that just it has the record straight up and it gets the spread. And I will make this interactive also because the folks who receive this will now have to go in and find out who it fits, but it's real easy. Anyway, first time bowl coaches over the last 6 years, which are head coaches who have never before been a head coach in a bowl game. Those coaches, those teams have won just 18 of their last 53 bowl games straight up, going 16, 36, and 1 against the spread. So blindly playing against first-time bowl head coaches, I'm not a big blind better, as you know, but if just for purposes of what we're talking about, if you blindly bet against first-time bowl head coaches the last 6 years, you would have hit 69% of your bets against the spread. A nickel better, somebody betting to win $500 per game in the last 6 years would be up $9,200 right now using this particular system. Now, that means you're going against a first-time bowl head coach against a head coach who has coached in a bowl game before. It's as simple as that. If you got two first-timers matched up against each other, cancels out. It's not part of the system. So just a little bowl trend and system that I do take a look at. I mean, if I've got a game where I'm leaning towards one side and I see my side has a first-year bowl head coach, you better be Nick Saban. He better be Nick Saban for me to make a decent-sized play on that if he's going up against an experienced bowl coach. So there's a couple of thoughts. And don't forget to check out Doug's daily plays each and every day, basketball, hockey, myself, basketball. And it's been a great – if you can hear that, I'm knocking on wood here because we're hitting about 64.5% in college. So far this season, we're hitting 63 or 64% in the NBA so far this season. NHL 22-13 run. So we're going to look to keep this going, obviously. And it's, never easy to hit more than 60%. So when you're doing it, you certainly feel good when you're handicapping the games. I always say, Doug Upstone, winning begets winning, losing begets losing. When you're on a nice run, and it's been going that way for a week or so, in this case for the season, it's almost like games jump off the screen at you when you're looking at the lines. And then when you're having a tough run for a week or two, it's like it might as well be in Russian. I'm serious. You know how it is. Anyway, any last thoughts before we decide to let everybody go?
Yeah, I just, the other thing that I just want to about one more, I guess, idea on the bowl season here. One of the big things to do is, enjoy it. Okay, because I mean, sometimes too many people get wrapped up in just the pure handicapping part of this. And I'm going to assume most people are not going to bet every game. Okay, they're not going to bet the side in total on every game. So I wouldn't recommend doing that anyways. But but enjoy it. I mean, it comes around once a year. You got about 15 days or thereabouts. Okay, to watch this and enjoy this. So enjoy the games. And enjoy, with what you're betting on. Don't go crazy. Just have a good time with it. That's the whole point of this.
Absolutely.
Okay. So just the drudgery of the other stuff, like I said, the daily basketball stuff. That's a different deal. This is a fun time of year. You should enjoy it.
Absolutely. He's Doug Upstone. I'm Scott Spreitzer. We are DocSports.com. Let's put him in the win column, everybody.